If you or someone that you care about has experienced any kind of childhood trauma, you'll know how long something like that can affect you. Even as an adult, you might think you're over it. It happened a long time ago. I don't need help, thanks very much. You're the one who needs help. I'm fine over here just doom scrolling in my phone or binging 128 hours of streaming procedurals. Nah. Yeah, childhood trauma's heavy duty, man. Thankfully, there's treatment. There's a way to actually live free of traumatic things which might have happened to you. Because no matter who you are, no matter how much money you have, you really can't insulate yourself from poor mental health. My guest today is Darren Hayes. Yeah, the pop star. In his new book, Unlovable, Darren documents what is a truly harrowing upbringing filled with incomprehensible violence. And he also documents his escape, not only into music, but an escape into internationally successful pop superstardom, which is exactly where he was, that he realized the truth behind the John Kabat-Zinn line, wherever you go, there you are. It's the second time Darren's been on the show, and the first time he's been here since he was a part of The Masked Singer, which we do talk about towards the end of the chat. It's magnificent. I love this guy. It's a great conversation. Well, firstly, the book is, like, I've avoided watching Boy Swallows Universe because I'm like, that is far too close to what I remember. No. And then I've avoided that. And I start reading your book and I'm like, well, here it is anyway. here it fucking is.
Let me be re-traumatized.
This is the 70s Brisbane I remember. These are the men I remember. These are the smells of the pubs. This is the sound of it. This is the feeling. I know Windsor Road. I fucking know that street.
Yes.
I know that heat. I know all of it. And it was like, well, it's no surprise. It is so immersive because you have an ability to put words together that other people don't. You don't accidentally have the career you have without that. But fucking hell, man. I would have to read it in stages.
I have to say, I was actually shocked that there's no, I didn't know about this with books. I thought that there would be some sort of rating for my book.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know, like contains themes of this, that, or the other. Because I feel like, I totally understand. It's heavy, really heavy.
What was the heaviest thing for me though, Darren, was that was just your family.
Right.
And I remember the stories that my mum worked in family medicine in Darra, where the Boy Swallows Universe thing took place. And the stories she came home with, it was all over and probably in every suburb.
Yeah. I mean, someone today was asking me about, do I have forgiveness or compassion for like the kids that bullied me and stuff. And, weirdly, I feel sort of numb about it all because I wouldn't say I'm compassionate enough, but I'm educated enough to understand that they were literally just a product of their environment. Mm. This is just socio-economic. This is education.
Yeah.
This is, I saw some of the kids who bullied me get beaten up by their parents in the schoolyard.
Oy.
In fact, I received a flogging from one of my school bullies 5 minutes after his dad beat him up, probably because I witnessed it.
Oh, my God.
Do you know what I mean? It was just the violence in the 70s and the 80s in Brisbane was so common. And the families, I imagine, that of the kids that bullied me were probably exactly like mine.
Yeah.
But in some strange way, because of the shame and the stigma and stuff, thought it was just me.
Oh, yeah. But when you're kids, that's what we have. I was grateful to know that your sister was there, that she was a little older.
Yeah.
And had a little more handle on what we can do.
Well, she had a handle on a hockey stick.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah. No, she was very, very physical and just knew how to drive a car before she had a driver's license and just knew the essential position of reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, could reverse very fast out of a driveway, like in Poltergeist. Yeah.
It's, because I go to kids' parties now, right? I go to kids' parties heaps. With Wolfgang, he's 5 now, and you talk with the other parents and stuff like that. And Halloween's huge around here, right?
Oh,
huge. And it happens. I've done it at the beach. You lose your kids sometimes. All right? You don't mean to, but it happens. And so there's like a couple of streets away. It's like literally 1,000 kids on the road. And the 3-year-old just got lost in some, behind other people, and they found him, 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, he was just grabbing some lollies out of somewhere.
Right.
But he said, for that moment, I was like, this is fucking pedo paradise. It's pedo paradise. And I'm saying to him, like, mate, that is a complete misconception. The true reality of it is that in Australia, at least, the vast, it is going to be someone you already know. It's not a stranger. If anyone's going to abuse a kid, it's going to be someone they already call uncle.
Isn't that crazy?
But we don't talk about it.
No, that the assumption and the immediate go-to is this outward accusation. It's always the other.
Yeah.
Othering.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, isn't it? When it's always, no, it's this is a shameful family secret.
Oh, and
we will hurt each other.
Oh, yeah.
Before we ever hurt a stranger.
It's something in the 90 percentile. Of all childhood sexual abuse.
And it's terrifying because it's in context. It's so normal. There's no way to see it outside of the bubble. So even if that's happening to you, like I give an example in the book of just, it took me until I was 25 or 26 to realize, the spankings I got were actually, no, I was abused. And I know people overuse those anecdotes. They talk about,
mate, if you're coming up in black bruises 2 days later, that's not a spanking, that's a beating.
Yeah, like a week later,
Yeah.
And there were, active plans to hide that.
Yeah.
And excuses for what that was for. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm the kid in the song Luca. Like, what? But I find this out when I'm sitting in therapy.
Yeah.
And just going, oh my God, and remembering, my dad didn't just hit my brother. He would say, put your fists up. Let's fight.
Wow, man.
That's how he would discipline my brother. He would have a fist fight with him. A grown man would have a fist fight with a 12-year-old. And guess who would win? Crazy.
When you go through this stuff, I mean, I don't know about you, but I recommend people do it, even if it's not for publish. Just do it because it's almost a systemic way to revisit and reframe shit you otherwise might not have realized is making subconscious choices for you through your life. Like try, as difficult as it might be, to go in there and just, just at least write it out. And then it's, even if you never show anybody, like there's a bring bind folder over there that's full of stuff, but now it's not in my head. Now it's over there. Yeah. And now it's separate from me, and who me now is not that stuff. That stuff is that. And I think it's, really good, as well as like when you're doing it, do you have an opportunity to kind of go, okay, and kind of put a bit of this stuff to bed?
Well, I wish it were that easy. I love the concept of even just laying down a burden, even if it's anxiety. Anxiety is a huge one for me. And I know that just list writing is an amazing way to just take a task away from your subconscious brain, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you think, I'll get to it later, oh my God, you're just torturing yourself. It's still there on the hard drive. It's running a program. It's using up, it's refreshing. Yeah. The app's refreshing in your brain. You just write it down in a list and that's peace for you, right? If I were able to do that easily, I would. Yeah. No, it had to be memory reprocessing, EMDR. I didn't know how to do that. For me, so much of this stuff was unexpressed emotion, literal cliched freezing, dissociation. So much of this stuff was I guess I didn't think I was allowed to have an emotional reaction. I was always on threat detection. Yeah. Constantly just thinking, I'll deal with that later. So some of the stuff I did, I had to do during writing the book. I had to stop writing the book because, it's probably really obvious to you, but for me, I woke up one day, I was just like, why am I so fucking depressed? And people around me were like, you're writing a book about your childhood? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm fine with that stuff. And I'm like, Oh, no, I'm not. And when I saw an EMDR therapist, she realized, I mean, one example is seeing my mother abducted as a child and realizing I never cried in the moment.
Yeah, right.
And all I needed to do was cry. And people think that if you talk about this, talking doesn't do anything. Talk therapy does nothing. You have to let an emotion sit in your body, let your physical nervous system process a memory and an experience. And if that leaves you shuddering and snotty and crying, that's what you have to do. I didn't get to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had no agency. I had no, even just to say no. And also a lot of the stuff, you know, my mum is 79 and I adore her. If I had written this book and my mother had passed, this would be a much more horrific and graphic book. There are things that I witnessed when I was pre-verbal that I didn't remember. My sister and my mother had to remind me, this is what was going on then. This is why you stuttered as a child.
All right.
This is why in therapy, when you talk about this stuff, you start to stutter. It's because what I was watching was so unimaginably horrific to me. I had no language, but I saw it.
Yeah. When, well, let's just talk about the EMDR thing. As I mentioned earlier, if there's one thing that I really got, it is, again, it's this inability to accept that this is it. No. I deserve to feel better than I do today.
Yes.
This is not working. I'm going to keep fucking trying. I'm going to keep trying. And I didn't have the shrugging one, but I know I've had enough therapists that, so it's fine, all right? They're great for other people. It's okay. They just weren't great for me. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 goes until you can figure that part out. What is it that kept you going, man, I'm not where I feel I see everybody else is? What was it that kept you trying, looking for that thing that would free you from this stuff?
Suicidal ideation.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wanting to die.
Yeah.
And thankfully, having what I call these sort of glass half full cells that tend to, when I get to my lowest ebb, annoyingly start to multiply. And I'm like, God, I just want to die. But they start going, yeah, but what if? So I know that there's that little part of me that still wants to live. And seeing a psychiatrist who said to me, and this is pretty grim, but a psychiatrist that just said to me, I have to be honest with you, I kind of feel like we have tried everything.
Wow.
And there's probably only 2 other things I would recommend. And don't be freaked out by this. One of them might be electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is the thing for you is EMDR therapy. Now, he wanted me to go away for 3 months and do it every day for 3 months.
At an inpatient facility or something like this.
I never got that far because I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah.
He's like, or you could do this intense course. And that's what I did. I did this intense course. And believe me, there were days when I was just like, I do not want to do this. I do not want to be here. Like, and I would have dread going to the session because I was just like, I don't want to remember the thing. I don't want to go through the emotions again. I'm fine. And the therapist wasn't psychic. She had 2 eyes and she could just see that I was not okay. And she would just say, she would develop what she called landmines. We mapped out my life. And she would just talk about moments in my life that were basically what I refer to in the book as zip files. And there were so many of them. I had to reprocess them all.
Yeah.
And it was so exhausting. And they could be as simple as, a lot of them were based around abandonment. So this fierce independence that I had, which was this fear that nobody can save me because I had no proof in my life that anyone was ever going to come and save me.
Yeah.
Right? I think most people who have experienced trauma, they react in that way, which is this fierce independence, and they become high achievers. Ring a bell. They become fiercely independent. They don't trust anybody else.
But Darren, if I keep working, you can't catch me.
Exactly. What if I become a pop star?
Do you have any idea how much control I have over my life?
Exactly. What if I win more arias than anyone's ever won before? And what if John Paul Gaultier knows me by name? And whatever, all of this stuff. What if I just become just such a good little boy? Such a high achiever.
Yeah.
And I'll never have to really deal with this stuff. But when we stop,
it's always there.
It's waiting for you.
It's the other 23 hours of the day that the hard part, the on-stage stuff or the gig or whatever it is the easiest.
It's amazing.
It's the best part.
For us, it's like, now there's no judgment because I wish that I wasn't such a judgmental control freak. I didn't even try an alcoholic beverage until I was 27 because I thought I would turn into Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
I thought it was Jekyll and Hyde. I thought, oh, you put the magic potion in the haze. Haze turns into the wife beater. Turns out I'm just a lush. I'm that guy that just says, I love you so much. I love you so much. This is my best friend. But being on stage and having that validation is like, I imagine, taking cocaine.
Having done both, I can tell you that I sometimes describe
What's
it as
better?
Well, one's more replicable. And more wholesome, and is actually an authentic source of happiness for both parties. I often.
But it's external.
Yeah, I often talk about on the first laugh I got. I think I was about 8 on stage at a school assembly thing. We were doing a skit, and the first laugh, that was it. That was the first. That was the first bump. It was like, whoa, I want more of this.
Yeah,
this is good. I like this part.
Yeah.
What do I need to do more all of this? All the time.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they laugh at you and you get that bump and whatever, is it exciting because if they laugh at, well, I'll call you little Osher or little Andrew.
I was little Andrew back then.
Is that because then they don't see little Andrew? They see someone else?
Oh, Darren, at that point in time, it was all about control. It was all about I get to decide exactly what you think of me because
Same
I
as
am
me.
in completely controlling this.
Yeah.
All right. I get to say what happens next. I know what's going to happen next. This is perfect. All right. And people, they say, oh, I never had any idea you had a problem. It's like, yeah, because you only ever saw me on live television for those 20, 80, 120 seconds or whatever it was in a moment of like complete flow, clarity, pure
comedy, charm, a script, hosting, all those things. They're so perfect for that because it's so predictable. Nothing can change.
Even
There's
last
no
night,
chaos.
I mean, it's very different now. I had to come to a different approach to it because my coping mechanism came my career, but like anything, it never was enough. And eventually the shitty feelings just permeated all of it, and like nothing I could do would make it better. So I have a very different approach to my work now. It's far more sustainable, far more lovely, and now I get it, and I'm sure you get this as well. It's all people want, all I want is just to connect with another person. Yeah. All right. And
I got there a long time ago.
All right.
I fell on my ass a lot earlier than you did, though.
Right. It wasn't until after I got sober, about 2010, that I started to, and it's only very recently that I started to really think about it, like, because there's no TV, I'm like, what is it that I really, really enjoy? So I actually enjoy connecting through performance, whether it's this, whether it's on stage, whether it's one-on-one, whatever it is. I enjoy connecting with another person in that way, and I'm good at it, and I give them something they otherwise can't get. So there's a value add. If I could do that, I'll be okay. It's pretty good.
Did you ever have the fantasy? I have the fantasy of like running away from all of this and becoming a therapist. Do you have that fantasy?
Oh no.
See, I fantasize about that because I think we're so good at connecting. We love people. We love the exchange of energy. And no, I realize I'd be terrible at it because I once had a therapist say to me, "Do you really think you could be mortal?" Did I ever tell you this? You know, that was like, what do you mean? It's like, come on, Darren, you've been like this you've been a prince since you were 23, 24.
Yeah.
You really think you could be mortal?
Yeah,
Just going to walk around and just never like be whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess the answer is no.
And that's why I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like it doesn't make me an egomaniac. Some people may perhaps think it's no. Just
you like to paint with big colors on a big canvas
with other people.
Yeah,
and I would be very alone very quickly if I didn't have an outlet to do that, because it would be far too much for the people close to me to bear.
Man, it's so strange to me because I still have that. Like I still want to have a kid. I still want to be a parent. I try to be very respectful about my ex-partner simply because he wasn't a public person. So even in the book, it's weird. There's a 17-year chunk that's just missing because, he wasn't a public person. So I gave him that grace.
It's not a deposition. There's enough in there.
Yeah.
Saying this is what happened. It's like Jesus was born, yada, yada, yada. Something happened at the temple. Boom. Hey, Sermon on the Mount.
There you go.
Hang on a minute.
Right.
There's like a good fucking chunk that's missing.
But I will tell you that I had always wanted to be a father. And I just thought we would have kids.
Yeah.
And it just, wow, I always knew those conversations, it's like, you should probably be on the same page on that one.
Yeah.
And I remember turning 40 and this is in the book, but being 40 and just crying, and we're in Paris and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I just realized that we never had kids, and our conversations had gone from like, maybe one day, to being told, you never really want to have kids.
Oh no.
And I just kind of accepted that. Oh, man. And it wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles, one of my best mates had a baby, and so I had that parental experience of like caretaking her from when she was like 6 weeks old and feeding her pumped breast milk and all that sort of stuff. But this is just leading to me saying I still have that fantasy of just like, maybe I will just be a therapist and just adopt a kid, and maybe I could do that. Until last night, I'm on stage and just banter and just doing some acoustic songs and just feeling so at home on the stage. And afterwards, doing a book signing, and someone came up and said, whatever happened to that comedy career like you talked about? You were doing all of it. And I was fucking hilarious on stage. And I just went, were you not entertained? And they went, oh yeah, actually you were hilarious. I was like, thank you. And we're moving on.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I am born to do this. Like I love to do this. So the idea of me like,
doing anything else? Yeah, nah.
No. Nah.
I'm happy to hear that fatherhood is still something that you think about.
Totally. Yeah. I thought that door had been closed.
Yeah.
It definitely isn't.
There's a thing that happened. Happened when, so Georgia, whom you met upstairs, she was 10 when I showed up. And very rapidly, this same person that we've just described, who likes being on stage and everything's about me, thank you very much, in a blink of an eye became anything that needs to happen to make sure every dream you want to come true comes true is going to happen. Like, I was like, what? Who said that? I said that. This guy? Yeah. And but it's confronting because you start seeing your kids say stuff that you recognize that your dad used to do or your mum used to do. And you're like, you never met my mum. She died before you were born. Oh shit, you've copied it from me. And then you like have this incredible opportunity to have a look and go, does that really need to be carried forward? Probably not. I can
that's beautiful.
Let that go.
That's really beautiful.
And it's a lot. You need to actively want to do it, but you get the chance to stop that, hold it, and like we don't need to bring this forward any further here, because who knows how long. I think the effect is called rippling so a great grandfather's affectation may be seen in the great granddaughter.
Yeah,
and they'd never met. They're 80 years apart.
Yeah,
but it's been shown they've followed and copied all the people around them, and now they do this thing. And they look just like your great grandfather, you know. And so you have this opportunity to do it, which is thankfully Maggie Dent told me this, spurred on by the fact that when you there's a pheromonal signal the baby sends off, which you go, oh, baby, hold. You sniff it. It's the best. Oh, it's the best thing you've ever snorted in your life. And it sets off this explosion of new brain cell growth for the first time. Only time it happens after the age of 25 in men is when the pheromonal signal of the baby hits your brain, and just all these new brain cells arrive to help you handle this added thing. So you have this ability, and that you're aware, like the plasticity that your brain has helped you come on this journey to here.
Wow.
You know, it's fucking amazing.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's
You're right,
beautiful.
man?
Yeah, no, that's just, they're tears of joy. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. And I deeply...
Oh, fuck, you know what, I tell the other...
Deeply
I was really worried I was going to
crave
cry
that.
today when you were sitting on my front porch having a cup of tea. So I'm like, I'm going to fucking cry when he comes.
No, but I deeply yearn for that, because I think there's a massive part of me that wants to be a parent, wants to, have so much love to give. And I've tried to take this massive well of it and always funnel it through romantic love. But that's just one form of love.
Yeah.
And then the love that I experience with an audience, and that's a genuine thing for me. I don't care what other artists say. A lot of artists lie about this. I've actually met artists who actively lie about this. It devastated me. Can't name them, wish I could. Such a faker. I met this massive artist who, before they went on stage, came to us and just said, yeah, I fucking hate this. Hate my job.
Oh, boy.
But it pays a lot of money, and here I go. And then they went out there, and I stood in the audience and I saw their fans just crying and so emotional. And I thought, you fraud.
Oh, man.
Right? So beware. But I feel that love with my audience, and especially because, I was royally dumped, and the people that stuck around to me mean everything to me. But again, romantic love, the validation from an audience, that artistic fulfillment, there's still a huge part of me that wants to be parented and wants to parent. And I thought that had been closed off forever. And I realize now that, oh God, no, I can. I can do that if I want.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did the Psalms, and by the time Wolf graduates high school, I'm going to be 63.
Great.
Yeah. But
Great.
that's the reason why I had the hip surgery. I'm like, I just remember how much effort it took to run around after G as a teenager. You've got to be there, right? You can't not be there.
No, I
so
get
it's a really
it.
good idea of like, I've got to stay vital.
This is the only time I think men ever feel any kind of biological clock. Trust me, I'm feeling you. I went to a barbecue recently. My musical director, Trevor, he's got 2 young daughters. Their next door neighbor, massive Star Wars fan, love their kid. I'm having lightsaber fights with him. And let's just say I was there with a new significant other who, I could potentially maybe think about having a kid with. That's all I'll say about that. And I was amazing at it. And I looked at my, significant other just looking at me like, God, you'd make a great dad. And I was thinking, yeah, I fucking would. Look at me having lightsaber fights with this 11-year-old kid. And then I did the math.
Yeah.
And went, oh, by the time I am doing lightsaber fights with a 12-year-old, oh, shit, I'm 64.
Yeah.
I won't be doing lightsaber fights.
Pilates and pump room. Let's make it happen.
Exactly.
And that's what better reason to stay vital, to stay fit, to stay
100%
being there. You mentioned pop stars, and I think because it's a part of your story, I remember when Michael Jackson came to Brisbane in 1987. Half of my school went. I didn't. I remember it going from the stadium to the indoor venue.
So Thriller had been the biggest album of the entire...
In history.
And still is now, but the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
And he did not tour the world. They only toured the United States. Then he took 3 years off, came back with the album Bad, and Australia went, nope. Just nope. Yeah. Don't like the way he looks.
Yeah. Didn't want to sell it.
He's playing in a stadium. Nope, not going to buy tickets.
Yeah.
It was just, he looked too feminine. It was the Queensland reaction to Michael Jackson was like, whoa.
Yeah, I remember. It was Queensland.
Because you were at radio at that time, right?
No, I was still in high school. But it was very much Yeah, Queensland.
Oh, you were gay if you liked Michael Jackson.
Oh, without a doubt.
You couldn't be a guy.
Gay wasn't the word they used.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're being polite.
It was Queensland. And they used those other words on television. But you also saw him quite close to the end. And
I think I saw maybe the last performance or one of the last performances he ever did.
What was it to see a artist like that on stage? Did it give you an insight as to, I don't know if you've seen the Kanye doc, but the 3-parter on Netflix, but I'm like, there's a lot of people whose money is dependent on this guy getting in front of a mic or a camera. He should not be in front of a mic or a camera. Like,
I haven't seen the Kanye. I saw the Whitney one. I don't know if you've seen that. That is devastating. We could talk about Britney in the same.
Well, yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Like, did you get the sense that, oh man, who's letting him?
Of course.
This is terrible.
Yes. And I know, just because I know so many people that worked with him, and in fact, I have a couple of people that work with me. I have an assistant that's still based in the UK that worked with him.
Yeah.
She was in his touring department.
Wow.
Michael hated touring.
Yeah, right.
He really did. After 1987, it just took so much out of him because he gave everything. And he really didn't want to do it anymore. And in fact, after the first leg of the Bad tour, where he had broken records at Wembley Stadium, so forget our little, like, Michael got downgraded in Australia, rest of the world, Michael only sold the second best-selling album of all time when he came back with Bad, broke touring records of all sort of kinds, but it exhausted him. The only reason he did more dates was to buy that ranch, which eventually just decimated him financially.
Right.
He put himself into debt. He bought the Sony catalog. He did whatever he could do just to, he was just so in debt, and he loved making records, but he really didn't like touring anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I saw him, I remember just thinking, I will never be that. I don't ever want to be that. And I won't ever be that. I've never done anything for money. I mean, we talked off camera about the Masked Singer. I got actually really pissed off recently. I think it was one of the tabloids ran something about me and just said that I had done that because I had to for my divorce. Fuck off. Like, I'm sorry, but those Savage Garden royalty checks are pretty fucking huge.
One of my I'm not on Twitter anymore because it's a fucking truck top toilet that hasn't seen a pressure washer in a while.
I actually quit Twitter.
Oh, I'm out of it. I'm out there. But
no, I literally deleted it.
I'm glad.
A lot of followers, and that's commercial suicide for some people, but I don't care.
Yeah, there was. I'll never forget. You wrote. Someone's like, "Mate, are you bored?" And you wrote, "You forgot multi-millionaire, bored." Multi-millionaire. I was like,
yes,
it's fucking excellent.
Yeah, like,
you are fucking hilarious.
And I don't give a shit about that. I'm just like, you know what? I'm so proud of how I succeeded because I came from nothing. And then the idea of, like, I've turned down so many things because I have integrity, and I could be more wealthy and I could be more famous and all of those things, but I just never want to be what I saw them do to Michael, which was just, if you saw Baz Luhrmann's Elvis movie, I think it's a very similar thing. Allegedly, I have to say this for legal reasons, I believe Michael actually might have coded or certainly passed out at the show that I saw. And
coded means like his heart stopped?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit.
Possibly some, like, Narcan might have been used.
Wow.
He was late to the show that I saw.
Hang on, what? So you saw him after this?
I saw him, he did 2 nights at Madison Square Gardens just before September 11 happened. He was very, very late to one of the shows. Now, around that era, now it was either then or around that era, there's pretty substantial evidence that allegedly that around that period, he had like a precursor to what eventually killed him.
Man.
Like, that's how little care the people in his orbit had. He was just a money-making machine, and he was so in debt.
Yeah.
And so many people he was leveraging so much of that catalog to just keep up this lifestyle that he had. It was very, very sad.
Money cannot insulate you from poor mental health.
No.
Or addiction or anything. It doesn't fucking care. It doesn't care. It doesn't discriminate.
No, which is also actually why I've always lived really humbly. So even at the peak of like when those massive checks are coming in, always lived really humbly. So never bought. The thing that kills a lot of stars in the US is property tax. You know this. So what happens, Australians mightn't know this concept, but what happens is you might be able to afford to buy a $33 million mansion, but every year you have to pay 2% of the price of that property. So think about that. You have to be able to afford to just cut a check for what, $33,000 every year, or $300,000 every year on that. I'm bad at math.
It's 300.
Yeah, $300,000 every year just for the privilege of owning that property. That's fine when you're Taylor Swift and you're selling those kinds of records.
Yeah,
but it's not great estate planning.
No.
So for me, I've always kept it super humble. I've had a number, and my house has always cost around about a number.
Yeah,
and that's just it.
To have that, what's the number and you've been doing the sums, like what's the number that when you can no longer work you'd like to have? That's a number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's it.
Having started with that number.
I don't care what people think of the house I live in or the car I drive. I just care that I don't live in an industry that has a pension. I have an industry that has royalties. So I'm just like, hey, this is the kind of house I'll live in.
You were probably, I'd just say, one of the last Australian artists to have that kind of success in the business model as it existed.
Yeah, when there was
actual units that actually got sold, and the mechanical royalties were a real thing. Yeah, not like but of course we play artist royalties, said a reskinned LimeWire. No, you don't.
It was us and Kylie actually. Yeah. She had her Fever record, and we were happening, and then it all just went down the toilet.
If you were, young Darren who'd just seen this huge pop star on stage and gone, that's the job I want. That's what I can do. What would you say to that kid now? What would you say? Like, I want to be on stage. I want to be a musician. What was the pathway that you would suggest to them?
I wouldn't change a thing because I definitely believe in causality, and I believe in a certain weird sense of destiny. I've felt it my entire life when I'm in the groove of a sort of a vague path that's been carved out for me. I've had a couple of near-death experiences that I avoided, and I can't for the life of me explain how I knew, but they were very intuitive.
Yeah, right.
Avoiding them. So I sort of feel like there's sort of kind of a little like underground subway map in the universe that's kind of like, here's a basic plan of how it's going to go. I wouldn't change any of the things that I did. The only thing, I don't regret anything. I'm not someone that believes in regret. I think it's a wasted emotion, just like shame is. One thing about myself that I've become better at is because of trauma, I have never really had a great judge of other people's character. Yeah. So I trust too easily. Yep. Yeah. So there might have been a few people I wouldn't have let into my orbit, but apart from that, wouldn't have changed anything.
If you had something to say to people who are listening, who they carry shame, what would you say to them about that?
Well, I think it's a completely abstract and invented concept. It leeches you of all joy. It reminds me of the film Poltergeist. It knows what scares you, right? And you feed it. You feed it every day by keeping it secret. The only way to rid yourself of shame is to expose it and to set it down. It's so useless. It's like worry. It's like anxiety. You can't change the future. So worrying about a future outcome is a complete waste of energy. If you want to just think about it in terms of scientific energy, it's a complete waste of energy.
Calories. Yeah.
Calories.
Yeah.
And shame, it only exists in secrecy, and it needs secrecy.
Yeah.
So it needs the bleach of sunlight. It needs oxygen to kill it. Yeah. And you would be so surprised how many people are sympathetic to honesty, confession. And when I say confession, I don't mean you've done anything wrong. I just mean confession of your shames. When you confess something that's been, a heavy burden, other people's sympathy is so healing, and you realize, God, why was I carrying that around for so long? I'll give you one short example. One of my EMDR sessions, I thought was one of the most traumatic things in my life. And it was healed by crying for 5 minutes. I was so afraid as a young person that because I had to be strong in that moment. I was so terrified, didn't really know what was wrong, but the solution was I just needed to cry.
Yeah.
So when my nervous system cried, you rate the experience of how traumatic it feels or whatever. Once I cried, it was like, was that it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And, we went through that memory, 4 or 5 times, but, it went from like, this is a 9 to like, this is just something that happened to me.
I've done similar stuff. I've done EMDR in a little outpatient clinic in Brunswick Street in the Valley in the 90s. Yeah. You never forget the smell of a psychiatric outpatient unit, let me tell you. And I was like, I don't belong here. Actually, I did.
Yeah.
And it was the first time someone waved the fingers for me. But I also did another one. It's called homotherapy. It's a slightly more physical thing.
Oh, nice.
And very similarly, like I'd be digging my thumbs into a Swiss ball, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I do, yeah.
But the way the therapist explained it to me was that, and you can't just do this at home by yourself, you need to be guided through it, but it was like it's the reaction your body's having is it feels like it's not finished the thing it was trying to do in the moment. And once you do that, it goes, that's cool, we're done with that now.
Yeah. And another analogy, it's just like your brain was trying to do a system update.
Yeah.
And it got interrupted.
Precisely.
A memory needs to be stored away sequentially, almost like a DNA strand.
Yeah.
And once a memory is stored away correctly, you can access it. And you can look, it's always going to be a shitty thing that happened to you, but you can remember a shitty thing that happened to you and not burst into tears. It was ruining my life. I would something would trigger a trigger. The definition of a trigger is this subconscious connection to an unrelated event that you can't even remember.
Yeah.
So you might be somewhere and a smell or someone's behavior or a comment might make you have a panic attack or sweat or feel anxious or whatever, and you don't know why. But for me, it would elicit feelings of abandonment, rage, anger, whatever. Man, just opening those zip files, rearranging that memory, restoring it the way it was supposed to be stored in the first place, it feels a little bit like having an empty email box.
It's work. It's worth it.
But it is worth it, yeah.
You get to live the rest, and my man tells me, he says, good, I got good news for you, pal. You get to live the rest of your life not being that guy anymore. Like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I was so fucking happy you came today. Thank you for shifting things around.
Listen,
I wanted
man,
to do your thing the other day. I'm sorry I couldn't. I was working.
Don't worry about it. I love you. I don't think people who listen to the show know our history, but I've always adored you and feel connected to you. And now I can say this, like, it's so weird, like doing Masked Singer and knowing you were there.
Your skull's on my desk. Like, that's
it's so great.
There. I stole it from your set.
It's so great.
It sits there every day to remind me I'm going to die.
And, I was in such a low place in my life then. Right, I was going through a divorce and I was so sad. But like, just smelling you on set. I don't know what you wear when you're dressed up in fabulous
Comme des
mode.
Garçons.
So good.
Black.
But it was just such a lovely sensory experience because like I would just be having this very isolated, you're in a freaking cloak in the witness protection program, but like I would just come out on set and stand next to you and you just give me a little wink or a little whatever. You weren't officially allowed to let me know you knew who I was or whatever, but you made me feel so loved when I was there.
I adore you, mate. I
needed that.
I do talk about this a bit, but I need you to understand that you mentioned the subway thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe in ghosts. I lived with one and I don't believe in them. I just think this is just something that we haven't figured out how to measure yet. All right. Similarly to in your book, your friend died. That moment, a flock of rainbow lorikeets fly past in fucking Santa Monica. What the fuck are they doing there?
I don't know.
Right?
But they're there.
There's stuff, right? On The Masked Singer, from season 1, and you were one of them, if I had known the person, because there was one person I smelled, because only one man in the world still wears dupe, and it's Wendell Saylor. I'm like, that's Wendell Saylor, of course it's Wendell Saylor. If I had met them and in a more than an interview space, like I'd kind of known them a little bit, what would happen is like they can't see anything, right? So they walk out and I need to hold their hand so they don't fall off the edge of the stage because it's a meter something up and they're going to fall into the front row, right? And I reach out, there's a unicorn walking out there and it happened. First time it happened, I'm in the big mouth. We're going to do the very first walkout for the very first day, for the very first rehearsal. And there's all the dancers behind me for rehearsal. And I look behind me and there's a wolf costume. I was like, okay. And I turn around, okay, you ready? And I feel a hand just grab a full fistful of my bum, like proper like fistful. And my brain goes, Rob Mills. And I turn around and there's this wolf. I was like, how the fuck?
Wow.
What the fuck is that? So when the unicorn walks out, I have to hold their hand. I reach out, I touch their fingers through a glove. I touch their fingers, Denny Hayes. Like there's something that happens.
Yeah.
When I stood next to you, I've got a photo of it. I think you grabbed me and I'm like this. But when you held me, I was like, you're fucking Darren. It's fucking Darren. Like,
yes.
Straight away.
Well, what people don't know as well, that night you texted me, you little shit, and said, where are you?
I could read the text.
Or something like that. And I was so petrified of getting fired because that contract is very strict.
I'm not going to lose my job, man.
I wasn't going to lose my job either. And I was just like, I didn't even answer you. I was just like, I don't think I answered you. I can't remember, but I was just like, you know what? Whatever this spooky little trick is, I'm not going to lose my.
It was pretty good.
Fat paycheck.
So I've sent you a photo of me on set, and it says, "I tend to think you're here." Who, me? Question. Yes, mate. You. If you were in LA, you'd be asleep right now. I'm an artist.
Exactly. And at that point in my life, I used to stay up until 3 or 4 in the morning. So there you go.
It was the best. I'm an artist.
Here's the thing. My deal on that show was so good because, I said no so many times.
Yeah.
And they tried to give me a really shit deal. And I went, thank you so much for your interest. I decline.
It's the best negotiation tactic there is.
Because I did not give a shit.
No.
And they wrote back and said, it appears that we'll be able to give you your fee. And I said, great. And I'm going to need my assistant. And they went, nobody has an assistant on the show. And I went, thank you so much for your interest. I decline. And they went, what's her name? I just did not give a shit. I did not want to do the show. And I thought, I'm going to do 1 episode because my fee was so good. I thought, there's no way they're going to pay me this every night. And I stayed on all the way to the fucking end. And I did not want to be away. I was like, what? How is this happening? And why are they giving me Freddie Mercury songs? I can't sing them. I guess I can sing them. So it ended up becoming this kind of spiritual, lovely thing.
It's a not uncommon experience.
Yeah, it was kind of lovely.
Get to experience.
It was lovely, yeah.
They get to experience performance in a way that otherwise never had the chance to do because of the previously mentioned, this is what we want from our performer. You should deliver what we want. Otherwise, we're not getting our tickets worth. You're the best.
You are too.